Americans turn to GLP-1s to address various health issues, the drug's high cost is reducing consumers' disposable income levels and impacting what they buy at the grocery store. But this fiscal challenge is also an opportunity for grocers to offer shoppers money-saving options across the store, which could include expansion of private label assortments. Welcome to Store Brand Spotlight. I'm Greg Sleeter, Executive Editor of Store Brands. Our guest is Beth Johnson, grocery expert with RRD, a global company that provides marketing, packaging, print, and supply chain solutions. Beth will discuss the impact the high cost of GLP-1s is having in the grocery store, how retailers can help offset the high cost, what products are in demand, and the opportunities for retailers to raise the profile of their private label assortments. Beth, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Greg. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's our pleasure. GLP-1s have been a significant topic of discussion, I think, is grocers deal with a lot of issues, but one, the changing habits of a percentage of their customers who are eating differently and buying less. So I feel like this will be a topic of discussion for many years as we go ahead. So I'm glad we have you on today to talk about it. Uh,
Thanks.
Beth, I want to start with, and I think the biggest issue right now when we talk about GLP-1s is still the cost of the drug that people are taking. Some of those can exceed, obviously, $1,000 a month. How are you seeing sort of the bill for this right now directly cannibalize individuals' grocery budgets?
Well, it's a great question. There are several categories that they're seeing a decline in sales, and those are ones that probably got them in the condition that they're in to begin with. And that is sugary drinks, salty snacks, savory snacks. And, they might be buying less per trip, but they're buying more higher protein, more functional waters. They're buying different products. And you also have to remember that they also are buying for their whole family. So while they may be buying less of those types of products for themselves, they may still be buying it for other, people in their family that they're, in their household. But the cost is definitely a factor.
There's starting to feel like an expectation that the so-called sticker shock that we're seeing with GLP-1s will begin to subside a little bit as prices come down or more insurance companies cover the cost. What are we seeing right now? Do you think that expectation is there, and any idea of when maybe that will start to happen?
Yes, I think we'll see a big difference this summer. I think the growth engine for the drug is going to happen for the 65 plus. The Medicare, I think they're calling it the GLP-1 bridge, where their out-of-pocket expense might only be like $50 a month. So I think we'll see a big uptick in the use of the drug, but it won't have the same financial impact for that demographic. And then we have the Wegovy pill, which is a lot less cost. It might only be anywhere in the $150 to $300 range, so that people are getting a lower cost alternative for the GLP-1 drugs.
So as the cost drops, presumably we'll see an increase in the number of people that are taking the drug, which really leads to the next thought process in terms of that change in grocery shopping habits, specifically among GLP-1 users. And there are numbers out there that people are eating between 20% and 50% less volume of food. So with every bite counting, are there specific nutrients that consumers are hunting for as, they're eating less, but they still need, whether it's protein or other things in their diet?
Yes, it's more focused on high protein, high fiber, more hydration focused, and not just water, but electrolytes. So there are specific ingredients. There should be more supplements involved. They'll need like B12 for energy, magnesium for digestion. They're going to need like more skincare. One of the side effects, they call it Ozempic face. Like if they've lost a lot of weight rapidly, their skin may not have the elasticity that it had. So there are a lot of other products other than just edible food that the retailer needs to be concerned about, like gastro support and skincare.
It's interesting you mentioned skincare because we hear so much talk about protein specifically, and it seems like every product now is either highlighting the amount of protein or products that have been on the shelves for years suddenly have more protein in them. But the skincare and some of those more wellness related products, that's interesting that maybe there's opportunity to take what's already on the shelves and highlight it as a solution.
Yes, and I'm glad that you brought that up because I think that's one of the biggest opportunities that could be implemented by retailers right away is to make it easier for the GLP-1 user to find these products in their store easily instead of going, to 10 different aisles of making either end cap displays or something within their ad or within their app that shows them these functional products all together. And I'll use the example of like supplements. Collagen is another great supplement. And a lot of times that's found in where protein energy bars are at and what they might think of as bodybuilder proteins and like whey protein and things like that. But they're also very good for the GLP-1 user. So to have an end cap display that puts all of these products together would make that very easy for a GLP-1 user to find. And a lot of this is going to should be coming from the pharmacist as they pick up their prescription. That could be the first line of defense or offense, um, of them giving those kind of recommendations of where things are at the store.
And you bring up an interesting point with the pharmacist and whether they're in a traditional drugstore or even in a grocery store. The way we talk even about AI and the way AI is directing in apps certain products to a consumer who buys certain things. If that app knew that you are a GLP-1 user, you would almost think they could pull together a list of products that would be beneficial just in the app in front of the consumer.
Yes, I know there's a couple of retailers that they are creating almost like GLP-1 essentials when the shopper is picking up their prescription that will have some free samples in it. We'll talk about what items are available, what new private label items are available, especially for like protein energy drinks, high fiber snacks, crackers. It could even include like recipe cards because if you're transforming your lifestyle, sometimes can be the biggest challenge. Like, how do I change from ordering pizza once a week to something that is, protein dense and fresh vegetables if it's not something that I've been accustomed to doing? So, recipe cards are another way that they can um, communicate with the shopper of what's the best way to make this a lifestyle transformation and not just a weight loss program.
Yeah, that's interesting too with the recipe cards. And I'm somebody like me. I like to cook, but I've cooked a certain way for so long.
Mhm.
So if I had to change that, it was like, well, what do I do? How do I make it obviously have the nutrients that you want, but also I want it to taste good. So that's an interesting thought too. You almost have to retrain yourself in how you cook.
Exactly.
Yeah, very interesting. One of the other things we're hearing, Beth, too, is that shoppers are cutting back on quote unquote perceived luxuries, whether it's alcohol, beef, or even sweet treats. Is this more of a financial decision, or is it a kind of a balance between finances and some physical changes that happen as they take the GLP-1 medications?
I think that it's a combination of both. You know, Personal experience, the cutting back on alcohol, a lot of red beef, um, was at the beginning of my journey was a personal choice. And then right now, if you take into consideration the cost of those, it might make it a lot easier for them to be using, like lean poultry or seafood. As again, they make that lifestyle transformation and try new recipes and things like that. So I think it's a combination of both the economy and of, again, this lifestyle transformation.
Beth, one of the things that kind of makes me smile as we go through any change in consumer behavior is we see the development of new terms. And one of those we hear more and more right now is affordable premiumization, which I have to say slowly because there's so many syllables in that. Uh, Given that thought process where people are still looking for a higher end product, maybe something a little special, but that's affordable, how can retailers use their own brands really to meet the evolving nutritional needs of consumers while helping them save money, but also giving them something that they perceive as an indulgence?
Yeah, there's a lot of great opportunities for those kind of products for a GLP-1 user. The first kind of categories that come to mind are like in savory snacks, like crackers. It could be dark chocolate covered berries that are freeze dried, something that is going to give them that little bit of indulgence without it being so expensive that it's still going to fit into their budget. Those are the kind of products I think that would really speak to a GLP-1 user as being premium, but not budget crunching. So I think there's some really good opportunities there for private label products.
You talked about and mentioned pharmacists playing a role in helping people kind of find products that will uh, meet some of the nutritional needs for GLP-1s. And we're starting to see more GLP-1 friendly call outs on shelves. Um, this would seem like an opportunity for not only the newer products that have higher protein, but something like canned tuna, which has, 25, 30 grams of protein in it, just to highlight what's already there and talk about, hey, it's high protein, it's high fiber, but it's not necessarily new. It's just always been there. But to call that out and highlight that for the consumer.
Yeah, again, it goes back to like what we talked about at the beginning, just the way they merchandise or advertise of bundling these kind of categories together, end cap displays. It's almost like every type of communication can highlight these types of categories together to make them think, oh, yeah, I didn't think of that category. I didn't think of that product as something that is going to be beneficial to me in this transformation of a new way of eating, a new way of buying product. So that's a great idea of um, items that don't necessarily have to be brand new, but just maybe kind of reconfigured in the way that they're presented to the shopper as a alternative to what they might be buying already.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of that stuff people may have in their pantries at home already and don't even realize it. So because they've just never
Exactly.
checked the label.
And
Yeah.
it's something that the rest of their family can eat also without them thinking that, oh, it's a GLP-1 product. It's something that is going to be nutritious and good for the whole family.
Right. You mentioned earlier things like skincare as people on GLP-1s lose weight, and then elasticity in the skin becomes a little bit of an issue. Are there other product categories as well that the retailers and the grocers should be looking at as highlighting as products that GLP-1 users should consider using?
Yeah, the high protein, it really has to do with like the muscle preservation. Some of the side effects are known to you can lose some muscle mass when you're on GLP-1s. The gastro support is important. So prebiotics, probiotics um, are are necessary, especially of GLP-1 users that this is going to be, they're going to be on this long term. And then the new one that I've seen a lot, and I've seen it quite a bit in the UK, a lot of retailers there, like Spencer's, and they're coming out with micro meals, like frozen dinners or frozen micro meals that they only have maybe like 400 calories, very nutrient dense. I think we'll see a lot of those in the coming year. So, like smaller meals might be considered again, like we just talked about that premiumization. You're right. That's a lot of that's a lot of syllables.
A lot of syllables.
But they're but they'll be smaller. So you're not either wasting it or it's becoming a leftover. It'll be a good one meal maybe for lunch. But only 400 calories is basically the average I'm seeing in these micro meals.
Right. Interesting. And it's interesting that we're seeing Europe, a little bit ahead of the US again on some of these things where the trends tend to work from Europe and then west over to the US. So not
Yeah.
surprising. That seems to be a historical thing, but interesting. So there are two trends that I think that we're seeing kind of collide here a little bit. One is obviously the growth of GLP-1s and the use from consumers, and then they purchase less food. But we're also seeing shoppers kind of shop all over the place. They're not loyal to a specific retailer, but they'll go where the best deal is, or they'll shop 4 or 5 stores to meet those needs. What role do you think of the rewards programs that these retailers have may play going forward to keep, a consumer in that 1 or 2 stores and not, have them kind of leak out to go to 5 or 6 other stores, whether to save money or find a product that they want?
Yeah, I think this is again where maybe the pharmacist becomes that first line of offense because this is again a lifestyle transformation. And if the retailer positions themselves as a solution provider and that wellness hub, and maybe they change their loyalty program to have some type of wellness points, and it's not just, a fuel reward, because to them, that's not going to be the main factor of choosing that retailer of how much they're going to save on fuel. It's going to be how connected is this retailer to me and my journey. So if the loyalty rewards is on health versus just on how much I spend, then maybe I will become more loyal to that retailer.
And Beth, as you look at this issue going forward, is there anything else that the retailers out there should be watching?
I think that as they think about innovation in private label, they need to concentrate on some of those categories. Like hydration is very important. So if they think about electrolytes that they can add to make, you know, a bottled water more functional, because the hydration part is very important. How they merchandise is also very important. Again, creating these bundles of products. How they can merchandise and cross categorize these things and even maybe promote them that way of buying 2 of the high protein yogurts and get maybe cut produce, a discount on cut produce. So getting them to think about these categories in combination with each other, I think will go a long way with helping the GLP-1 user understand that this retailer is with them in this process. I think is going to make them a leader when it comes to a solution provider for that shopper.